Thanks for staying with Facing the Nation. And of course, once again, thanks to the Honorable Nicolette Henry for coming in to give us a brief update on Guyana's 50th independence anniversary celebrations. I did promise you three things today. I promised you Jubilee, I promised you local government elections, and I promised you oxygen as it relates to women and so on. So now it's time for the local government elections aspect of our program. Both gentlemen on the program with me today, they're no stranger to Facing the Nation, and they're no stranger to politics and the political scene and to the public in general. It's great to have both of them back, James Bond and Akeem Peter. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Viewers, you may be wondering why the combination, why the two? Well, of course, James Bond, again, always controversial and always doing things for people to question. This time he has, in a sense, jumped into the local government elections race, but as the manager and the mentor for Akeem Peter, who you met right here on this very program a couple of weeks ago. So I'll be talking to them about how they preparations for the elections are coming and everything else that it has to do with local government elections. But before I do that, gentlemen, we are in what is going to be Guyana's 50th year since we would have achieved independence. James, beginning with you, how are you feeling at this point? I mean, even after listening to Minister Henry giving some updates and so on, how are you feeling about Guyana's 50th independence anniversary?
Well, Malika, thanks again. I could say what the people feel, and I think the people both overseas and here are extremely excited about the 50th anniversary. I've been receiving messages via Facebook to go rent rooms and for persons coming in. So Guyana, both home and abroad, they're very excited, very, very enthused. I think the plans on stream as listed, but the other plans as well. I think there's a total buy-in as it is right now with the 50th, all the merchandisers, the printers, promoters, business people. I think there's a total buy-in to the concept that this is a once-in-a-lifetime jubilee celebration, and I'm excited. I think even the Republic ceremonies, the celebratory Republic, the investiture ceremony, as well as the flag raising, those would have set the tone for what is expected in and around May 26th. So I think it's a very, very good time for us as a country, as a nation. And I would just, the only thing that is missing is the buy-in politically, which is not a problem for me. But it'd be good to see that buy-in politically. But the people of the country, they've bought into it.
Okay, all right, fabulous. Akeem, your feeling on independence?
Well, my feelings reflect what Mrs. Bond has shared. It is something that we should and that we are excited as a people about. The Guyanese people, both locally and abroad. One of the things that I would like to see as a young person, it's more of a, well, the national conversation have already started for the Jubilee celebration. But it would be good to see not only, like James said, the APNU or the government taking charge of it, but a collective effort on a political front.
All right, straight. You, both of you want to see PPP come on board a little more than, you know. Okay, fine. I mean, we could say that. All right, let's talk about local government elections now. Even before I come back to James Bond is your manager and mentor. People met you on this very program a few weeks ago, and I know you've been doing a lot of work, so people have been seeing and they've been hearing from Akeem Peter. Let's talk again about the constituency that you are an APNU AFC candidate for.
Yes, Malika. I am representing the APNU AFC within Constituency 5. Constituency 5 is made up of 7 communities, namely Leyendal, Bel Air Village, North Sophia, Section A and Section B, South Sophia, Pattinson, and Plum Park and Farmers Field. The communities vary within needs. Their needs vary straight across the board. We have set out plans to actually tackle those needs and bring solutions to the residents of all of those communities for the local government, or in the local government system, so to say. But the thing is, it's a lot of work. We have a lot of hearts to touch and a lot of people to meet, a lot of doors to knock on, a lot of stories to hear. You know, the people, they have a lot to tell, and we understand that the government has begun to do so much, but it has yet to reach, or the solutions has yet to reach the common man, and that is why local government is so important, especially within Constituency 5.
All right, great. Let's talk to my controversial brother and friend, James Bonner. I tell you, I think he thrives on that description. Anyway, James, when we heard local government elections, we expected to see people like James Bond throwing his hat in the race. It took you a while before we heard anything from you publicly about local government elections. And when we did hear from you, it's James is mentoring this young man. He's managing this young man. Let's talk about that. First of all, is there a specific reason for not jumping into the race yourself, local government elections?
One reason is that I believe other people should get a chance. As one reason, I think local government elections needed new, fresh, vibrant faces. I've been managing Constituency 5 for 2 electoral cycles. Let's not forget Akeem Peter and Ian Ballers, who works the station here. They're my sons in politics. So they campaigned with me, and they saw how we did it. We've never lost that constituency. We even went further and took on Constituency 6 in the last elections and won that constituency as well. So I don't lose. So it's just I'm very, very. I was Lilliandale is where my mother's family is from. So I've always had a connection with the villages surrounding Lilliandale, Turkine, Bel-Air, Sophia. I've always had a connection there, so I almost know everyone there. Akeem is from Sophia. So I was being the campaign manager for the constituency in the past 2 electoral cycles. I was tasked by Minister Lawrence, who is the district chairperson, to manage his campaign as well, and it's going fabulous. I must say, it's like a one-man race right now.
oh, he's that good, eh?
It's like a one-man race right now, you could, I think, we are sure, guaranteed a seat on the council, being represented by APNU in the form of Mr. Peter after March 18th.
Okay, all right. You have also been getting into the controversial side of things, but even before we talk about that, these days, unfortunately, I know some people are not going to be too happy with this statement that I'm about to make, but these days it seems very difficult for some persons who would have already been experienced in this field. It seems very difficult for them to pull in a youth or two and mentor them and train them to fill shoes. What is it that jumped out at you from Akeem that said, look, hey, you know what, this is a young person I can mentor? I should ask you, what does it take for people who are already established leaders and so on to pull young people in to say, all right, look, it is time for fresh faces, fresh blood? Let's talk about that.
Well, it has to be in you. I don't think certain things could be taught or learned. I think it has to be in you. And all the young people that are actually, I don't want to say work for me, but work with me during the last elections, and those that I brought into the PNC, they could tell you one thing. I teach them that politics is beautiful, and you always have to see yourself, not one day being a dinosaur, but one day seeing yourself spreading your wings, moving on, becoming independent, and taking on new challenges for yourself. And I think Akeem demonstrated that. You can't have a perfect person in front of you at any time. But I think you must show capacity and a will to learn. And I think once you have the patience to say, you know something, I made a mistake here, let me go forward. And you have someone to defend you. He could tell you, I defend him, and at the end of the day, come back and say, you know what, you got to pull yourself up with this, you got to do this, you got to do that. So just wanted to see other people succeed. It's something that has to be in you. I don't think everyone has that in them, because I think the nature of, they say, self-survival is the number one rule. So persons are always looking to preserve their own little domain, their own little space. But I'd like a day to move on, and he could manage Constituency 5. and leave my old self out. You know, so he was telling me my haircut got me looking young. I said thanks.
Well, now I feel old because when you're talking about old, I'm not very far away from your age. So here
Now I'm talking about in politics. In certain stage of politics, you
Yes,
outgrow
you grow.
certain things in politics. I mean,
Indeed.
let's be frank about it. You can't be in one position politically. All of this about evolution.
Shouldn't be.
You should not be. So I think the youngsters now, I must commend them for taking up that mantle and take the bull by its horns. And I hope they bring fresh ideas. People always tell you that this can be done and that can't be done. Nonsense. The world was flat just a few centuries ago, millennia ago. So people, they will always have people who want you to remain the same. I threw a challenge out about Georgetown, about a modern city.
Right.
And you're all hearing all these obstacles. The cell thing, we're low sea level, whatever the case is. Technology and science is ever evolving. When we're old and gray and die, they will have skyscrapers and deep waters right here because there will be a group of people who challenge the status quo and challenge the way of thinking.
Okay, viewers, if you're now tuning in, of course, this is Facing the Nation. Today I am chatting with, for the second part of our program, today I'm chatting with James Bond and Akeem Peter. You met Akeem Peter a few weeks ago as he is an APNU AFC candidate for the quickly approaching local government elections. Akeem, before I come back to James, because I definitely want James to comment on this, have you been experiencing any sort of mudslinging thus far? Because it's out there, the word is out there, who is not going after who in terms of candidates who are coming up against you. Have you experienced mudslinging?
Not as yet, but it is anticipated that it will happen. But we haven't had a direct attack, or I should say mudslinging to me in particular.
Okay.
What the mudslinging refers to, it's on a more political basis, that the APNU AFC has one central government and control central government, but now they're forcing to impose themselves on local government. I think it's the mudslinging within my constituency. It's more on a political party level rather than an individual level.
Okay. James, some of the things that's causing the mudslinging is that we hear candidates, not necessarily APNU, AFC candidates going out there and campaigning saying that, look, we're going to bring a fresh look to Georgetown. We're going to clean up the city. We're going to make the city green. There are people who are responding saying, what really is your point? Because that is already being done. And because of that, you have this back and forth. Let's talk about that, James. I even saw you on social site getting into it a bit. Let's talk.
Georgetown, as it is, spanning the 15 constituencies, it's very, very diverse. And I think when persons refer to Georgetown, they're probably focusing on central Georgetown. But Georgetown is more. When you go into the outskirts, you see that there are other parts of Georgetown where there are severe challenges. Akeem has a vision. It's centered around public security, public health, job, youth empowerment and entrepreneurship, and the other one is infrastructure. So his vision is to guide his constituents in that direction. And I think persons are trying to limit the councillors in terms of saying that, you know what, will not be able to do this, will not be able to do that. But Chapter 28:1 gives councillors, the council of itself, very, very wide powers. I think persons forget that City Hall could actually bring in investors. And I think this is
many know that.
that's the thing. City Hall, if it wants, could partner with a multinational corporation and bring jobs to the city. That's not a responsibility only of central government. City Hall could partner with the various cities of Toronto and New York and bring personnel and technology and whatever to Guyana, to Georgetown, as a municipality. It's in its own right. And I am not just talking about just central Georgetown. I'm talking about in the Sophias. I'm talking about in the Leandals. I'm talking about in the Pattersons, and I'm talking about Bel Air. So the council the councillor must have a vision that projects. Not just, we're just going to dig a few drains and clear a few ball fields and that kind of. They could bring jobs to the constituency. They could empower young people in their constituencies. And I think we need. I was trying to tell the Senator that you could challenge yourself. Don't let persons limit you to say, oh, it's just about cleaning drains and picking up garbage.
Yes.
I think we need to go beyond that, because that is not Georgetown. That is not the municipality alone.
Correct.
Because if I may, James, I got a complaint that somebody was saying that, look, every time you ask a young person, and this is not only, this issue is not only about the APNU, AFC youth candidates, but every time you ask a youth candidate, all right, what can you do for my community? You're hearing clean drains, clean parapet,
They
make
haven't looked at
Georgetown
the
green,
act.
and
They haven't looked at the act.
where are the big ideas? And I'm trusting
Yeah.
that Akeem's big ideas are there.
They're there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that we could be the seller here if we dream. I'm not saying to say, oh, we're gonna build a railway line or whatever the case is immediately. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is there are certain powers the councillor has, which he could implement within his powers, with, of course, the concept and mandate of the council sitting as a whole. But he could present, if, for example, Akeem has a businessman, a wealthy businessman who wants to invest in Sophia and has a project for Sophia, nothing limits him from bringing that proposal to the council and the council implementing it without central government getting involved. And that is the idea that I want the other candidates to catch on to, that you can now seek investments, you can now seek to partner with other core groups to bring change and bring wealth into the communities, and do not keep them impoverished thinking about, oh, I'm just here to clean your drains and cut your grass.
Okay. On another note, you have indicated recently, of course, via social site, of course, most people, that is where most of us get our news from now. You have indicated that you are willing to facilitate some sort of debate. I don't know if it's for two specific candidates or if it would be for all the. Frankly, I'd like to see it done for youth candidates. As I told the public last week, we know what our leaders are going to say, no doubt. We've heard them, they've mentored some of us. We've heard them time and time again. Frankly, I'd like to see debates, at least for the youth candidates. Tell me, what really is it that James wants to do when it comes to hosting a debate or debates?
Well, it's basically, I've endorsed Mr. Sherrod Duncan in Constituency 14. He's one of the first persons that came from my endorsement of his campaign. And I've been following his campaign very closely and following the campaign in Constituency 14, South Prime Belt Industrial
Seems to be
Estate.
hot,
It's
yes.
a hot,
And you're
hot
smiling.
seat. It's a hot seat. And it was a debate between Psycho Andrews, Mark Benchcop, and Sherrod Duncan. I think from my little hearings in South, is that those are three of the top candidates in the area. There are other top candidates, but I think those are the three of the top candidates in the area. So it was a facilitated debate, and we have a date. It's next Tuesday, March 5th or March 3rd, one of the two, on Channel 2.
So both parties
So
have accepted.
I hope they've all accepted. I know Sherrod is ready to go. I know Psycho is ready to go. I don't know if Mark is running. I know he's running for mayor, but I don't know if he's running away from the fight. But
Every time somebody says mayor on this program, I mean, I know, but I have to ask the person who's talking about mayor to remind the public that you were not on March 18, you are not voting for mayor. So, James, this is your opportunity to remind the public that that is not what is happening.
yes, people. The councillors will elect a mayor. The council sitting as a body after March 18 will elect who they want to become mayor. If these parties have any hope of becoming mayor, then they must win at least 51% of the councils, the constituency, to actually have a chance, to definitively have a chance of electing their guy or their woman
Yes.
to become mayor. So they have the work cut out for them. I think Mark is only contesting in 14 constituencies. Legacy is only contesting in 9 constituencies. YFLAG is also contesting about single digits in constituencies. I wish them all the best. I know this will definitely be a sweep by Georgetown, by APNU. I think the PP is contesting in all 15.
Yes.
But I know that Georgetown has traditionally been the stronghold of the PNC, APNU, AFC coalition. I know residents will keep their faith in persons who represented them all these years.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the key. When the city was besieged by the likes of Mr. Whittaker, Ms. Suba, and we've been fighting tooth and nail. And one man said, you know what, he wished an epidemic broke out in Georgetown, and the person was wishing bad. It was the APNU. It's we started campaigning for local government elections and marching. Persons forget that. So I advise my residents of Georgetown to stick with leadership. You know who's been fighting for you all the time.
I know what you said about sentiments coming from certain sections saying that national parties should not have contested the local government elections, but give the smaller parties a chance. But just so the viewers can get the idea, I'd like some of your sentiments regarding the statement that the national parties, and in Guyana we know the major national parties, PPP and of course the PNC, which is now a part of APNU. What are your sentiments, James?
Well, first and foremost, the most important reason I gave for that statement that national parties should not be a part of local government elections is that you're actually telling us that we don't have a right to be there. Yeah, and that cannot be what the statute envisaged, that cannot be what the Constitution envisaged. You can't say, you know, something, these persons have a right and I have no right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, all of the persons who are representing these constituencies from the national parties come from the constituencies, who've been fighting for the constituencies all these years. So then you're saying that they must go separate themselves from their national party and contest. I think that is a ridiculous idea. I believe we should, just happens in all these other countries, I think it happens in Trinidad and Jamaica, is that the major parties contest in local government elections. I don't see why we should not have the same situation here. Yes, let independents come out. Let independents come and campaign if they have the resources, if they have the people and the ideas, let them contest. But do not say, oh, the PPP Civic, the APNU coalition has no place therein. We represent the people at the end of the day. And I think we should always be allowed, in whatever sphere, no matter how small it is, to keep representing the people. And the loyalties, I think the point is missed in a lot of these things is that persons have to be loyal to their constituency. So even though you're a candidate for a national party, you're not loyal. Your first and primary loyalty is not to the party, it's to the constituency. If you're loyal to the party and not the constituency, you'll be voted out.
Correct.
So you would have the good sense to know that you have to be loyal to the people at all times. And that is the essence of local government elections. It is not about competing between this party and that party, but it's finally a return of loyalty to the people and loyalty to the constituency.
All right. James, before I get some final sentiments from Akeem and his vision and so on, I'd like to ask you, I don't know if you want to make it public, but viewers, you're probably wondering why Akeem is not talking much today, because he was introduced to you in this program. And you know most of his vision and so on, but you'll get an opportunity to hear from him again, of course, because he's been campaigning really, really hard. James, I don't know if you want to make it public, but at this point in your head, who would be your choice for the mayor of the city of Georgetown?
I'm flirting with a number of ideas, and I want to say flirting. In my head, I'd like to see a woman as mayor.
Good. We're on the same page.
Yes, in my head, I would like to see a woman as head of the city. I think that would be a good thing for us in this 50th year. So I'm leaning towards a female candidate. I think the only prominent female candidate I've seen thus far is Ms. Patricia Trace Green, who's had a lot of experiences at City Hall and knows the ins and outs of City Hall. I think she brings also a listening ear, which is very necessary in these times, and she has a grasp of what it takes to actually manage the city. Again, and in transition, if I may also flirt with a number of other young candidates, I think could fit the role of mayor of the city of Georgetown.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, James. Akeem, before we have to wrap up, again, just remind Georgetown, remind Guyana why they should vote for you in your constituency come the 18th of March 2016?
Okay, Malika, as James alluded previously to the fact that we aren't only focusing on the infrastructure of these constituencies, even though they are important. We believe that if their infrastructure is good and the people, the residents of those communities aren't up to par with the infrastructure, we as leaders have failed, and as councillors have failed to bring improvement to the individual communities. So that is why we're going to be focusing not only on infrastructure, but on youth empowerment. We're going to be partnering, or as a councillor, along with the board of councillors at the mayor and city council, we're going to be partnering with the private sector to ensure that jobs are created for the young persons within Constituency 5.
Okay.
In addition to that, we're going to be promoting the talents and the gifts and the skills that the young people possess, and channeling it in the direction of entrepreneurship. Along with youth empowerment, we have public health. We notice that the infrastructure impacts the health system of the constituency and the communities within the constituency. So at the same time, when we clean the drains, we promote good hygiene within the community and the constituency in itself. We're going to be looking at the sewage systems that run through the area. In addition to that, we're also going to be dealing with public security. We know that security is a major issue within Constituency 5 and within the communities of Constituency 5. Yes, the Home Affairs Ministry and the Guyana Police Force has been working along with the community members to actually reinforce the point that citizens must work along with the police force. As a councilship, we're going to be focusing on strengthening that relationship as it relates to community policing. In addition to that, we're going to come up with initiatives now to promote the fact that if you have public spaces, schools, clinics, health centers, community centers, we, instead of awarding the contract to an outside security service, we look within the community first of all to see if we have the human resources to capably enough handle the job, creating jobs for not only the young people, but for the professionals within the communities.
All right.
So that's a start.
Well
we have a lot that we're working on as time goes by. We're also going to be implementing hubs within each community to foster growth. As the infrastructure builds, we believe that the people themselves must build. And when we build, Malika, when we build a better community today, we create a good life for tomorrow. So that is our vision for Constituency 5.
Wonderful.
So come March the 18th, vote APNU, AFC, and vote Akeem Peter as your councillor.
Thank you very much. Well said. Sounds like a plan, James. You should be extremely proud. Gentlemen, this is where I have to wrap up with the two of you. Thank you so very much, viewers, if you're now tuning in. Of course, this would have been my conversation with Akeem Peter and, of course, James Bond. No stranger, James Bond is managing and mentoring Akeem's campaign. So, again, this is another great reason for you to support APNU AFC, to vote APNU AFC for the local government elections. Of course, again, as we move closer to local government elections in Guyana, I'll be having more candidates on who will talk to you. And not only that, I know some people still have some other questions and so on, but some of the officials will also be on this very program. This is Facing the Nation. On the other side of this very quick break, we'll be talking about women. Of course, as you know, International Women's Day is also approaching fastly, so we're going to talk to a young lady from an organization that will be doing a lot for International Women's Day, and so she'll also talk about some other issues, and she's also no stranger to Guyana. Stay with Facing the Nation.